Hi, I'm Sarah from Knitting-and.com, and today I'm going to be sharing with you some tips for stuffing soft toys. I'm going to be stuffing a Betsy doll in this tutorial, and that's a free pattern that you can get from my website. I'll put a link in the video notes on YouTube. So if you're watching this video embedded on a website, pop on over to the video on YouTube and you'll see a link to the pattern in the video notes. I like to use a soft filling intended for toys and cushions. This is hobby fill stuffing from Spotlight shops in Australia, but you can get a similar stuffing from craft shops in most countries. It's light, it's airy, and it can be pulled apart quite easily. The first tip I'll be showing you is how to fill large areas in a toy. The biggest problem that most people have when they're filling soft toys is that get lumps or spots that don't have any stuffing in them. And when you try and fill up these lumps, your toy becomes overstuffed and very hard, and the seams get stretched out. To stuff a large area in your toy, take an amount of stuffing that looks like 2 or 3 times the size of the area that you're stuffing. It looks like a lot, but once you squash it all together, you can see it's about the right amount. As you can see, this is sort of clumpy and a bit messy because I've been handling it. So if your stuffing looks a bit lumpy, just tease it out. Like that. Now you want to take the whole handful and put it all in at once. It takes a bit of fiddling with, but putting it all in at once will stop you from creating those lumps that I talked about earlier. Now you want to push that stuffing all the way up to the top. And I'm just going to push the corners. I'm just going to push the corners out on my doll's bonnet while I'm doing that. Don't worry too much about creases in the top. You can use a pin to pull stuffing into that area later on, and I'll show you that tip later on in this video. The head of my doll is now stuffed, and you can see there aren't any lumps. So now I'm going to show you how to fill small areas like the corners of my doll's bonnet. To fill small areas, you want to take about as much stuffing as you think you'll need for that area. You want to try and get all of the stuffing in at once, but here's the trick. Pull it out into a tube shape, and this means that you can put a little bit in at a time without creating lumps. Starting with one end of your tube of stuffing, you want to push that all the way up into the corner. As you can see, the end of the stuffing is still sticking out from the hole of the doll, but I've already started putting the other end of the stuffing into the corner. If you try and put all of it in at once, it will just pop out again. It won't fit. So keep stuffing. And if you don't have enough, you can take another stretched piece of stuffing and just overlap it with the end and keep going. And this will mean that there won't be any little balls of stuffing or any lumps forming. And you can use that same piece to stuff the other corner of the doll's bonnet. And keep playing with that until it's exactly the way you like. And there, I've finished stuffing the head of my doll. It's not too hard, it's still nice and soft, and there aren't any lumps. Next, I'll show you how to stuff the arms and the body. To stuff the arms, you'll need some sort of stuffing stick. This is just one I found at a charity shop. You can buy them in craft shops. You can use the end of a knitting needle, but don't use the point, use the other end. Or you can use a chopstick, a blunt pencil, and anything like that. You don't need to go and buy these specially. To stuff the arms, use the same technique that I showed you for stuffing the corner of the bonnets, which is a tube of stuffing. Just take a handful and stretch it out. But you're going to use a lot more stuffing because the arms are much bigger. The only difference between stuffing the arms and the bonnet is that you want to get the stuffing all the way into the hands, and that's why you might need to use a stuffing stick. So you just use the stick to push the stuffing in and keep going until the arm's full. You might need to just start off using your fingers if you prefer. You don't need to use the stick if you can reach all the way in. One tip for when you do stuff the arms or legs in a toy is you might find that you get creases across. Usually this is because it's overstuffed. It's natural to think that you don't have enough in there and that you need to keep putting more filling in to stretch out those creases. But if you just run your thumb and finger along, it'll help remove those. So there's one stuffed arm on my doll. I'm going to go ahead and do the other one now. So here's my doll. She has both arms stuffed. Now I'm going to fill the body and the skirt in the same way that I showed you to fill the head. For large areas, a large piece of stuffing, and for the corners of her skirt, I'm going to put it in using the tube shape method that I used for the arms and the corners of the body. Here's my doll with the body and the skirt stuffed just as I did earlier on for the bonnet. I just have a quick word to you about dolls that are made in just two pieces like this one. With a toy that is just a front and a back piece that is quite a complex shape, in sharp corners like this one you will get creases, and this is okay, but what you want to do is make those creases fall where you want them to. So in an arm like this, you want the crease to fall between the arm and the body so that it looks like it's in a natural shoulder position. So all you want to do is crease it. Pull and then crease it. and the stuffing will move where you want it to go. Finally, I'm going to stuff the feet and then the legs. Because the feet have pointed toes, I'm going to use the sausage method for stuffing small shapes. And then I'll fill the rest of the legs up using the large piece method that we used in the bonnet, the body and the main section of the skirt. And then we have a Betsy doll all ready to stitch closed, which I'll show you in my next video. If you are making a doll using this pattern, stuff the legs quite lightly because you'll need to stitch down the centre later on. The final tip I have for when you're stuffing dolls is if you have a little section where you feel you really want some stuffing but you missed it and you've already sewn it shut, is to get a sharp needle, stick it down into the doll, and you can then use the end of that needle to pull the stuffing into the section that you've missed. Don't do this if you've made your doll from knit fabrics though, because it will make the fabric run and make holes.